Hi, I'm Sam Sells, and welcome to my podcast, Clean Money. I like to say investing matters, and my show is to talk with everyday folks that are not only creating great success, but making an impact in society and improving the lives of others. That is my mission, and I want to share my stories and others with you. Welcome to Clean Money. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again on another great episode of Clean Money, where we talk about how to invest your time and resources in a way that makes a difference in the world. Today, my special guest is Spencer Hilligoss. Thank you so much for joining us, Spencer. Spencer is the CEO of Madison Investing, a real estate investment club with bespoke curated real estate deals. Spencer founded Madison Investing with a singular mission to help busy, successful professionals invest passively and secure their most valuable asset of all time, which is time. And the older I get, the more I care about time, for sure. By partnering with in-market vetted operators, Madison Investing has $2.3 billion in acquisitions with over 20,000 units. Investors now have access to cash flowing private real estate syndications and funds, allowing them to enjoy passive returns as their businesses thrive. Spencer, thank you so much for joining the show.
Honored to be here, Sam. Like, what a wonderful way to spend the hour. I know we were joking about parenting and a few other things beyond this. And so right before we hit record today, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Having kids definitely changes your life, your perspective, and like you said, that some of the best parts, some of the most difficult challenges comes from being a parent, and I wouldn't turn that. I wouldn't change that for anything. And we both have 7-year-olds, so we know, like we know.
That's right. I mean, I was telling you, we're gearing up for the 7-year-old birthday party this weekend for our youngest, but
Yeah,
yeah, so much of what what we do and nerd out on in the investing world was led with this family first ethos, because for us, just to share it up front, like these days, like I'm feeling very fortunate. My family and I just went on a trip this summer to live abroad for about 6 weeks and
yeah,
not
right.
just sit on a beach. I mean, we vacationed, but a little bit, but we worked and lived in like the Balkans and like Croatia and Montenegro. And this is a lifestyle by design thing we've done now 2 summers in a row. Never could have done that in my prior career, tech career for 13 years and grinding it out 80 hours a week and leading big teams and financial tech companies. This is just it's a different way of looking at the world, different way of prioritizing more family and more health. And so, we were chatting about kids that certainly made me want to share that up front here. Like this is really the why behind all of this, right? Like, yes, it's fun to nerd on looking at great investment summaries for deals. Yes, it's fun to like talk about the profits, but it's really all about like why are we here in the first place, right?
Yeah, that's it. And um, just depending on where we are at in stages on our life, I know Tony Robbins. One of my partners was one of his partners for a very long time. And Tony Robbins is just, doing like these 10, 20 different events a year, massive events, 10,000 people, making tons of money. But he said he wasn't there for his son, his oldest son. And so 2020 COVID came and they couldn't do any events. And it just kind of was a big slap to him, like you need to spend time with your kids. And so reconfigured his life. So you can be wealthy and like you're saying, um, you can be wealthy, but you have no time.
That's right.
You don't have any time with your family. You don't have any time to go to the Balkans, Croatia, and spend 6 weeks to just live, not sit on the beach, but just to live and spend time with your family. That's amazing. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, happy to. I wish I could say that every day was us, like as a whole family with Jennifer and our boys, like sitting in another country working and,
Yeah,
gallivanting around. Of course, we come back to reality. We still have our kids in schools.
yeah,
So I live here these days in the Bay Area, California. I run Madison Investing Club for passive investors like ourselves and beyond. Um, but, flashback, a solid, what is it now, 8 years, and I was still just on the brink of really deciding to go full time and doing this lifestyle. And I had a 13-year career in tech companies, financial tech companies, fintech, uh, starting with Intuit. It's probably the only familiar name I could drop for people. And then progressively a bunch of very early stage, very kind of hardcore, A series, B series, seed stage startups. And
Yeah.
I cherish that journey. I learned a lot, but I also learned along the way that exactly to your point, Sam, my definition of wealth in that era of life, that chapter of life, was twisted. And it's not to say it's wrong, because frankly, I lived it. And so many people do these days, right? Most of us. Where Jennifer, who's my co founder of our business, as well as our COO, she and I had it's a dual income household, two totally distinct careers. And we were celebrating the fact we were maxing out 401ks, and we did that and just working hardcore every day in the Bay Area here. And,
Yeah.
we lived in Colorado for a decade, came back to California for a while where we got roots here. And I think that throughout that whole journey, uh, there was a breaking point for me, or a catalyst, I like to think more so, is like a 2 week period at the most hardcore startup. If I think back to to that journey where I didn't see one of my sons because yeah, I was going in too early. I was coming home too late, and it was just broken priorities, right? And my health
Yeah.
wasn't great either, you know. So,
Yeah.
so all those things in that journey culminated in us going, "There's got to be a better way." I mean, there's just got to be a better way, And so we eventually started looking in other ways to decouple ourselves from these jobs, like build an off ramp, and started going through these three phases. Of course, in hindsight, it feels like three phases, but in going into it, it was like clear as mud.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we bought a local rental, spent way too much money on it because we thought that would change our life.
Nope.
430 grand rental in the Bay Area, get to $200 a month in cash flow. That's not a life changing amount. Um, thank God for appreciation.
Yeah.
Uh, we bought, built up a portfolio of rentals in phase two. Those were in the Midwest. They're cash flowing very nicely. $60,000 purchase price was mind blowing for someone sitting on the West Coast.
Yeah.
You get $250 a month in cash flow, and you're like, wow, um, that's a better mileage for your dollar.
Way
Uh,
better. Yeah.
Way better, But we also kind of figured out, like, I mean, you know this lesson, but we figured out that that is semi-passive at best. Like you're still managing.
At best, yeah. It,
Uh,
in a single tenant who destroys the apartment, and then because it's your fault they didn't pay rent,
right.
that you know, I mean, they could cause you 2 or 3 years worth of profits evaporate.
That's
And
right.
yeah, been there many
It's
times.
spot
I
on.
got out of single family. Once I got out of single family, my life got so much better. But yeah,
Once, it is a long-term wealth builder, and so many folks find that. But along the
yeah,
way, I'm sure your reasons are similar to mine, which is like, cool. How many times is my hand going to cramp from signing loan docs on every single one of these just to get, a couple $100 a month in cash flow, which is great economics, but it's just not that scalable.
right.
Yeah, I mean, and you got three kids we were talking about. I have two. And at that era for us over the past years of deciding and figuring out our compass for like, how do we change from this grinded out lifestyle that has no off ramp and leadership, like corporate ladder climbing, right? We were like, well, the overhead isn't working for us either. We go build up to 5 single family homes. That's not a huge portfolio. People get to 50, 100 sometimes over years before they make the decision to go beyond that.
Yeah.
Ours was pretty fast. So we bought and sold those. And then we said, let's go try to invest as an LP, and we invested as LPs, passive investors, in a multifamily deal. This is around like 2017-ish, maybe 2018. Went really well.
Yeah.
And
Great job.
yeah, it was clearly, I know time in the market matters, as everyone uses that platitude in real estate, and I agree with it, but timing also does matter too.
Yes.
and that's
Yeah.
and that's just the reality of it, right? And thankfully, we leaned into that hard. And ever since, we've been investing as LPs and we've now put in over 7 figures of our own capital over 7 years into a bunch of different asset types, uh, and run our investment club to invest along people. And it's just, saying out loud sounds really weird and complex, but it's, as you know, like, as soon as you step out into the entrepreneurship and like into the wild, as it were, uh, you just figure stuff out, and you just
Yeah.
look and you learn along the way. I had a model of entrepreneurship in my dad, who was a broker, but that hasn't. Most people think brokerage is what real estate is, and working for him and doing open houses as a teenager and cleaning out fridges at properties, that was a tiny sliver of
Yep.
what real estate can be. But that is what scared me into tech, for the record.
And it's not even where the money's at, right?
Right. That's right.
Those guys are chasing transactions. No transactions, they don't make any money. So they're constantly chasing transactions. They can never ever stop.
Hamster wheel. all the same.
Residential, like real estate agents work their guts out. People complain egregiously about having to deal with a real estate agent because they're going to get 3% commission. I'm like, you guys,
They're working hard for it.
they're working hard for it. And then it's not even really where the money's at. The money is in the whole, the owning of the asset. And
That's
yeah,
the wealth builder for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to mention though, like, on this whole journey, an inspiring catalyst for me. It goes all the way back to like working for my dad's business because I wish I could say it was a rosy story to share, Sam, but it's really not. I'll
Mm,
keep this brief, but I don't want to freak people out too much. Um, we all draw inspiration from different places. And uh, my dad was in the top percentage that did make good money in brokerage. He was crushing it. This is the 90s. I
mm,
was like a young teenager, and I was like, I don't want to go work this open house. I don't want to go clean out that property. But then we got hit by this really challenging decade. We in our family we call it the dark decade, and like it was a lot of people that I love passing. We lost a younger brother to cancer, lost uh two grandparents within 6 months, and another one after that. It was a challenging decade, and I bring that all up because my dad's business was the only income we had, right? And we weren't poverty stricken, like I'm not going to make it sound like we were out on the street, but we went from living a very comfortable lifestyle to watching his business shrink rapidly because of that challenging period of time. And
yeah,
that stuck with me, over the course of years when I got my own career. Now I have my own family, relying on me. That sticks with you. Like, how do you go and avoid that? How do you go build a moat to the best of your ability to not
yeah,
rely on just that one active income? And lo and behold, there we were, Jennifer and I working our own two careers and fully active income, still feeling that dynamic years later. And once I made that connection, finally, I was like, we got to do something different. We have to change this up because I want to make sure our family's taken care of, regardless of what the future might bring.
Well, that's incredible that you not only did you have that realization and you saw that the reason why the business shrunk and so did the financial fortitude and then the added stress and you made that connection, right? Most people would just say, well, my dad wasn't making very much money and it's all his fault and blah blah blah. But you also made
Right.
the connection that life is difficult and that causes the business to be more difficult because he's dealing with all the life events. Um, and instead of going and saying, I just want something really secure, which is what most people would say, I don't ever
Right.
want to be without the security. So I'm going to go get a great W-2 job because that's where security comes from. And the answer is no, that's not where security comes from. If you are working your hours and your company doesn't fire you, or it doesn't get acquired and you get laid off, or the company doesn't go under business, then yes, you can have a steady paycheck. But that is not security.
That's right. Completely agree with that. Yeah. I mean, flipping the definition on its head is a little mind blowing. It's a hard thing to hear for most folks, and I will say that within an observation of our brethren within the investing network, right? The folks who really love hard assets, who love investing. And I mean, call it a single family rental, call it a 400 unit apartment building, self storage, whatever the asset might be. We generally hear folks ripping pretty hard on the W-2 world. And what I really feel in my heart of hearts looking back is I don't dog on it. At the same time, do I agree with that? Like, is it a hamster wheel? Is it something that is more secure? Uh, no, right? It is not more secure, and it's absolutely a hamster wheel. But at the same time, I built relationships there that are lifelong, and
Yeah.
I learned skills, and it's transferable. But folks do absolutely, and we all trick ourselves into thinking that working for a company is going to be more stable than whether it's going out and doing your own thing as an entrepreneur, or it's investing in a certain asset class and then leaning in heavily to doing it over the course of years with your own capital, taking the right steps to do that and building income streams. It is absolutely, you can find risk wherever you go. It depends on how you approach things
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
mitigate them.
And mitigate them. And that takes me to my next thought. So, or my next question for you. How do you, so you're working with investors now. How do you help them mitigate the risk and build that moat like you've been talking about? How do you do that? Yeah, how do you help people right now?
Yeah, I mean, goals first is always going to be the first question, right? And it sounds so simple in concept. We all talk about, well, we need to be good at goal setting. Um, and that is absolutely true. So I'll start with the goals and then I'll just kind of say it more pragmatically at how do we vet stuff. First and foremost, I think we all want to skip over the goal step, and the goal step is the vitally most important one.
Yeah.
I
What do you
want to
want?
skip it too.
Yeah. It's just where I start with people like, okay, tell me what do you want? Like,
Right.
what do you want?
Like, and really embracing that. And I'll be very specific. This is a quick anecdote. At the beginning of our journey with Jennifer and I, when we were like in that toughest moment of like, hey, are we going to get off our butts and
Mhm.
like make a change? Sure, it feels great to get a big pay stub and then celebrate living in a comfortable enough house, etc. But we hired a sitter, had to get out of the house for the whole weekend, committed to sitting down and literally walking out of this weekend planning session together with very candid conversation, Sam. Walking out with, okay, within how many years are we going to hit that amount of passive income coming into our household? And there was argument, there was laughter, there was tears, there was reconciliation, there was like multiple cycles of that stuff. And I'm not trying to freak people out. It's just that's what happened. And I don't think it's something you should go into thinking it's fun, but I absolutely consider it vital. Like if people want to cruise past that step, or if they're single, that's going to be a much simpler discussion. But if you're with
Yeah.
someone, you know,
That's exactly how it's been for me. So it's been the cycle with my spouse and kids and understanding, what is it that we really want? And when we talk about that, then that helps alleviate some of the, well, we shouldn't be leaving our job. I'm like, well, if we know what we want and we know
right,
it's this, then, you know, what are we doing? How are we going to get there? If you don't know what you want, if you don't have that goal, like nothing else matters, right? Just work your W-2 job.
right.
Just
And take your time. If you need more time to stew on it,
yeah,
it's
take
all
your time.
good.
Right. But when you want something different, then you need to find somebody like Spencer, like you, somebody that can help folks plot a course to get there financially.
Yeah, and even just to sit there and soundboard and challenge assumptions, I think so that's the first step. And to be clear for people, our goal walking out of that weekend for Jennifer and I was hilariously long. It was saying we'll hit this number. It was at the time a 4-digit passive income number, and then it became 5 years later. We said 15 years, and for most people, that's like I'm not going to wait 15 damn years to do that. We did come back the weekend after, and we said, okay, that's way too long. Let's chop it in half, and we said 7.
Yeah,
We ended up hitting it in 5.
yeah,
And that's the bottom line to get to is that if we had said it for a year, if we had said it for 2 years, like it's so fast. It's the ultimate excuse, the excuse maker, right? It's the ultimate way to wave the white flag. Like if you set a goal and it's too aggressive,
yeah,
immediately we all throw up our hands and we're like, there's no way we're going to do that. So instead, take off that pressure. Anyone could do something over the course of 7 years. And we ended up hitting it more aggressively. And that was just, it played out that way. So the second thing that I think is really important just to call out though, Sam, is in terms of mitigating risk is like fundamentals. Like if you're investing passively, as we have so many times and we help our folks in our group do, there's really three things. And I didn't come up with these. Like someone way smarter than I am came up with this years earlier, which is you look at the team that's managing this thing, you look at the market where the
hmm
property or the project happens to be, and then you look at the business plan or the deal. Team, market, deal. And we absolutely don't need to recreate the wheel on those buckets, but we take it to a lot more detail, so beneath each of those. So just to call out a few of them, um, folks, particularly technical folks and financial folks, whether you're a CFO, with your data scientists, some of our investors in our group are, from the FANG tech companies, and they are
yeah,
incredible quants. They could run circles around me on a spreadsheet, but they overdo it on that first without saying, let me go and lean into who is the team? Have they done this before? What's their track record? What's their approach? Meaning, like, can they repeat the business plan because they've done it before in that same asset class? Those are the real questions to start with. That's the first line of review. And it's tempting and easy to skip past that because these numbers appear more concrete.
yeah, yeah.
Right. But you have to look at the team.
You have to look at the team. A uh, a boss of mine a long time ago said to me, Sam, he used to say this all the time. He said, every model is wrong. some models are useful, but
Mhm.
every financial model is wrong. And you just got to understand that no matter what, you're guessing about the future and it's wrong. And so you can get really hung up about the numbers, but the numbers isn't what makes money. What makes money is the team and the people behind it and the business plan and the market, like you just said. Case in point, we did a deal in Memphis, and I'll you know share some mistakes here. Like we did one deal in Memphis. Somebody just kept talking me into it. Memphis, Memphis, Memphis. We did the deal there. Great. Took on this little apartment complex. Just crushed it, except for the market gets a say. And so even though this thing is uh, outperforming any other apartment complex around it, it's higher occupancy, it's low, we're in like 35, 36% expense ratio. The market crime has gone up by 300% over the past year and a half because
Yeah,
of
that's
a
tough.
catch and release program there. So like if you get busted for killing somebody, you get back on the street like a day or two later. That's cool. That's a great way to keep your terrible. So long story short, like we've done everything we could on this deal. We've outperforming, but the market has taken such a nosedive that we've lost 20% of our property value, 30% of our property value there.
Oh, that's a tough one, man. I'm sorry to
It's a
hear
tough
that,
one.
but
But so the market has a say. The market always has a say. And you can use and I mean you can invest with people who have done great work and they could still mess up and you could still lose money. You
completely.
got to take that holistic approach every single time.
Yeah, and I want to add, okay, that's a great example. I mean, I appreciate you saying it, Sam, because it is all three, right? It's of those big buckets. It's the team, the market, and the deal. And to make it more specific, I'll share another example with you too, from our end. Mistakes and made and things learned is that this is kind of probably the bigger, quote unquote, duh moment, I think, for people in hindsight. But in 2018, 2019, in particular, around there, an incredible number of opportunities coming across our desks, right? And
Mhm.
multifamily is going up in value, self storage. Those are kind of big asset classes we've loved and leaned into, in addition to medical office and a bunch of other stuff. And um, at the time, a bunch of deals we invested in, fixed rate debt, and some of the deals, floating rate debt. And floating rate debt, I mean, the story's already been playing out. And now we're on the other side, we're into the next chapter already as of a few weeks ago. Um, but no one had in their forecasts interest rates were going to go up over 300 basis points within the speed and severity that they did. And you call that an uncontrollable learning. There's a lot of folks that have come out and said, "Oh, you should have known better," and be like,
No,
I
it's
didn't."
never happened in history. Like it's never gone up that much in history. 200% was the most it's ever gone up in history. And for us, we had a couple of deals out of the 20 something projects we had that had variable rate debt too. And yeah, I got the same thing. People are like, oh, well, I knew interest rates were going up. We all knew interest rates were going up,
That's right,
but that fast? That's insane.
and that much that fast,
That
right?
fast and
Yeah,
that much. Yeah.
completely. Yeah. So when I hear folks in hindsight be like, what I take away as a learning, great mentor of mine was always like, man, just don't relearn the same lesson twice. And gosh, I love the mentors that I've had the fortune to be able to learn from in my corporate career, entrepreneurship, and investing careers, right? And they're always the toughest ones. They always give you the
Yeah.
hardest, most painful feedback to your face, typically.
Yeah.
Um, but that one couldn't be truer. And investing well, in my mind, when we look at deals and we look at teams and we look at markets, is a snapshot. And that's all we have. We have a snapshot in time. We have a snapshot given all the data that we have in front of us about the team, the market, the team's performance. And there is still some qualitative stuff in there. And I want to just call this out because, we use this 5-part vetting framework just on the sponsor these days. The team approach, the communications sent out by the team, the legal, and the values. And a lot of times, the more quantitative focused folks are like, how do you even measure the values? Be like, well, I've hired literally hundreds of people across 5 pretty large companies over the years, and you could behaviorally interview in a bunch of different interesting ways that uncover things very quickly. And they allow you to sift through what teams are here for the right reasons, what teams are here to make a good investment, but also not do it at the expense of the people living in the asset that you happen to be investing in. You know, these are basic things to me and basic things to us. But example would be asking someone one time, this is a few years ago now, we were about to do a deal with them. Economics looked great. Team has done well on their performance. Team has performed. But I asked them, you know, what's your philosophy on like tenant experience? You know, and I mean, I'll rephrase that. Like, how do you want people to experience living there in that apartment community of a couple hundred units that you've got? And I asked him three or four different ways. It's a friendly conversation. It's not like an interview.
Yeah.
Um, but he dodged it, and he dodged it repeatedly because he never really thought about it. And in the end, um, maybe I'm a dummy, you know, for not doing that. But at the same time, there is not just a quantitative and business focused review here. It also matters like, are you doing something as a capitalist? Sure, you're all here for profit. But you're also trying to do it without doing it at the expense of other people along the way. And so, like, you know, stuff like that matters. And I think that looking at the quant matters, looking at the market, to your excellent example, matters. You know,
Yeah.
that crime rate spike, you could not have forecasted that the same way necessarily. All
Well,
that stuff
yeah.
matters. And you can't mitigate all risk, but you can do your best.
We can't mitigate all the risk, but we can do a fantastic job only if we have a lot of experience.
That's
Um,
right.
and the more experience we have, the better we get. And that's it's just so important. I love that question. So we about tenant experience. Wanted to we were talking to a big syndication group, and they wanted to partner with us on a particular deal in Dallas Fort Worth. Now I'm an impact guy, so we have impact systems and protocols. We work with lots of nonprofits. We do a lot to make sure that our residents are taken care of, because at the end of the day, our residents are who pay the bills. It's not, yeah, you make money on the buy and all that stuff, but the actual dollar that comes into your pocket comes from a resident. And
That's right.
so at the end of the day, like, how are your residents being treated? How are they being taken care of? Do they know that the management is there to support them, or do they believe management is there to extract every value penny out of them as possible? And, sit on the property and not do anything and turn it into a slum and just operate it because they're trying to maximize profits. Uh,
Right.
and our belief and what our experience has been, fortunately, over the years, it's taken a while to get here, is to when you take care of your residents, when you care about them and you treat them well, that the property becomes far more profitable. It's less expensive to maintain. You don't have near as many trash outs where people just trash units and leave. Um, it's less expensive to evict people because you can talk to them. They know you're there for them. And for us, we're like, well, if you can't make rent, we have 10 different charities that we can connect you with, and they will pay your rent for you.
Oh,
You
that's
just
awesome.
you just have to do XYZ, because it's, different groups have different requirements. If you can meet those requirements, they'll cover your rent and they'll help you get a new job and everything else. And we've had a lot of success with that, a lot of success with moving things. Um, 75% reduction in crime at one of our properties the first year of ownership.
Oh, that's a big drop.
It's a huge drop. The city in the area had a 33% drop. Our property had a 75% drop.
Oh, kudos. That is awesome.
Yeah, there was a murder on that property while we were in due diligence. Talk about a punch in the gut. But our whole thing is to take on distressed properties, clean them up, and make them clean, safe places to live that are still affordable. Everyone has different thesis. Everyone looks at things differently. That's why it's so important, Spencer, as you're saying, to actually talk to them and see how they look at it. That group that we were talking to, they were very, very aggressive with the numbers, very, very aggressive with ownership. And we just said no. Like, "Oh, I don't need your money. Don't want to do the partnership. I'm not going to do it because you don't fit our value system of how we invest."
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, there was not only a values comment you made there that I just want to respond to, but I think there was also a really savvy vetting piece of criteria that is, I would say, clarified in terms of importance over the past, call it 2, 3 years in particular, right? It's been more volatile, been choppier, been harder to be a real estate owner in the past
Yeah.
couple of years. And what you hit on there about business plan alignment and there's so many folks. I mean, I've invested in a bunch of deals, and I think that you can have a great team that it does have experience. Maybe they've run full cycle exits over the course of 5, 6, 7, even 10 years.
Hmm.
But what matters too is the playbook they want to run. What's the business plan they want to run? Is that one, does their business plan and their experience match the asset they're buying? And when let's say a very experienced distress buyer, right? You know, if you have expertise in C class or buying a distressed asset and improving it and making a great living experience, and it also wonderfully produces profit and all the above. But that team decides, hey, let me go buy a brand newly developed A class asset. And we're going to plug in the same property management team if they use a third party property management team. Oh my goodness, that is a recipe for challenge. And
Yes.
just self awareness is key. Is really the comment.
We've learned this. We've hired the number two largest property manager in the country to run a Class C property after we ran the property management ourselves for a while. And then with growth and everything else, we just said, let's turn this over to a third party property manager. Our partners, institutional group, Harvard grads, all this stuff. They're like, let's hire the best of the best. We love these. I'm like, okay. And I said, my team, what do you guys think? They're like, no, these people are not going to be good. They're not going to be good. Our institutional partners like, no, they're the best. They get in, they take over, and it's not been good. Past
Oh,
year or so, like their expense rates are so high. They don't know how to run a Class C property. We've renovated the thing inside now, but it's still a Class C property. It's still built in the 70s. It's not a Class A property. The tenants are
right.
different, and they've
Different
struggled
playbook.
big time struggle with it. They can't handle it. They're used to a different client. They're used to different experience. And so yeah, we've had to pay the piper. So Spencer, what you just said is super savvy, right? Just because a property manager is great at Class A doesn't mean they're going to be good at Class C and vice versa.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
totally different game. You need to have experience in that asset class. You need to have multiples. Uh, I am not one that likes to say, I'm only going to invest with you if you've only made a profit ever. When I see
Right.
people who have never not made a profit on a deal, I usually think either they haven't done very many deals, they haven't been investing very long, or they're hiding something.
That's right.
And
None of which are great options.
none of which are great options. So, and I know people who are actively losing properties right now, big ones, like $20 million of investor capital on 5 or 6 different properties all at once. And on their website, it's all like, 37% IRRs. And,
Right.
okay.
On that point, one of the things that it hits on is a key question that I use in our vetting process when getting to know someone, knowing an operator, right? And this is actually one I translated over from the startup world and the tech companies. And when you're hiring a leader of any altitude, manager, director, VP, whatever, it has to do with failure response. It's like the coolest way to brand it, I guess. Kind of silly, but it
Yeah.
sticks, which is like, tell me about a time when something that you worked extraordinarily your hardest at, didn't go the way you wanted and you failed. And what did you learn from it? If they are in, to your point, exactly your point, Sam, like if they've been doing a specific type of business, real estate investing, and they've been in it for over a number of years and they say, I haven't had any, or they give some dodgy answer that doesn't own up to something that's excruciatingly kicking the teeth painful, figuratively, um,
Yeah.
they're either hiding it or they're too insecure to share it, or like there's no good answer that other than the one that just says, here's a really brutal experience I went through,
Yeah.
you know? And it's okay to just say up front, like, hey, if it's a newer sponsor and they're like, here's an example from entrepreneurship, it's not necessarily from real estate. And there's nothing harder than this thing that I went to when my company failed, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever, but
Yeah.
just having the answer and the wherewithal and the self-awareness to say, this is what happened and this is why it broke the way it did. And here's what I learned from it to avoid that happening again. Um, that stuff matters, man.
That stuff matters because World War III could happen like next year, right? Like we don't know what's in the cards. We don't know what interest rates are going to do. We think they're stable now. They could go down, they could go up. We don't know what's going to happen. 2008 crash could happen again. The banks could go insolvent. All kinds of things can happen. Who is in charge of that? Your investment, what market is it in? the team behind it, all of that stuff matters a ton. Um, because, how do you, if you're going to have a lifestyle that you control, where you can go live in the Balkans, where you can go live the life that you want to, there's got to be as much security behind that as possible. And so
That's
that
right.
money needs to be with people who are, if things go wrong, they're going to fight like hell to make sure that you are protected as an investor, that your investment is protected, and they're going to do everything they can. They have the wherewithal to stand up. If they've never been through a challenge, they don't know how to stand up when things get tough. I don't want to be I don't want my money in that spot where somebody's learning the first time how to deal with a loss.
Absolutely. So well said. I mean, I think of in the COVID in 2020, and then also in the last couple of years of a higher interest rate environment. And you got, I remember in COVID specifically, this is real quick. One of the teams we worked with on the invested with on many deals. And one of the lead GPs like literally relocated, to be right next to the properties that needed to be hands on, particularly during COVID. And they had to ensure hundreds of people and their families were getting all meeting all the requirements for sanitation and all that stuff, and just navigating through the tough times. And they dropped everything to deal with that way, and we still invest with them now. And so it's remarkable how the past 5 years have offered up so many wonderful opportunities for people
Yes.
to test their mettle and come out the other side.
And come out the other side. That's funny. We're looking at places to move. We were talking about this before the thing started, that I'm relocating, probably relocating because I want to make sure that our second fund, working with Voxel is a success. And that means being very close to the developments, very close to everything else. Um, do what you have to do to protect and succeed. Investor capital is incredibly precious. It needs to be protected and needs to be honored and well taken care of.
Very well said.
So we've talked a lot about, I think something that's really, really relevant for today. A lot of people are losing money today, Spencer. And I don't know how much you guys are seeing of that. But for me in this industry, and I keep getting calls from investors who are like, Sam, I have $950,000 in this deal. This is what the operator is telling me. What do I do? And I'm like, well, this is what you do. This is what you can do. This is what you should do. Um, and yeah, this is what your
Yeah.
options are.
And understanding the controllables and then uncontrollables, right? And then moving forward in the best information that you can. Knocking on wood to date, haven't lost any money, my own capital in any real estate deals to date. Of course, have lost, a significant amount in some other alternative stuff, unfortunately, and like sizable amounts. And good learning lessons there on vetting as well. They're
Yeah,
learning lessons that absolutely apply across any form of passive investing in private equity, alternative investments, real estate, crypto, and beyond. And so
absolutely.
tuition is expensive sometimes.
Tuition is expensive. Common sense comes from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions, right?
That's
Uh,
right.
As they say. So tell me, we only got a few minutes left. An investor comes to you, uh, and is interested in, getting access to, what things that you guys are seeing, deals you're seeing out there, how you guys invest in them. Tell me what they get, and what does that look like?
You know, uh, I built a relationship with 100% of our hundreds of active members, just like the way you and I are talking right now. And so that is still the way we do it now. And our main lever of growth is referral. It's the old school way to do it, but it has been a wonderful way to ensure that everyone's on the same page and just aligned in terms of long-term goals. Because these hold periods are 5 to 7 plus years for a lot of these deals, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so when folks reach out to our website, they sign up for a call with me. We connect on a Zoom or on a call, and my first question is just going to be like, why you want to do all this stuff?
yeah,
And I mean, over some version of that, right behind it is going to be the most potent question still to this day that I use, and I use this when I look at deals. I encourage folks to come back to center, no matter how much gray hair they have and how many deals they've looked at, which is, what's the goal for the money? It sounds simple. It's not simple. I dare someone to answer that question honestly when they're staring at an incredible IRR on an investment summary and they're like, I'm a cash flow investor, but I really found this deal with a great, it's a development deal with a 30 to 40% IRR. And be like, that lizard brain just turned on, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to invest for cash flow still? Open question. So I think those are the kinds of conversations that I really cherish because it's educational on both sides.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So tell our listeners how do they find you?
Yeah, they can find us at our website, MadisonInvesting.com, and they'll find a link just to sign up for a call with me and we can connect.
Okay. Sounds great. Um, Spencer, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being on our show, but also thank you for being a good person, for trying really hard to take care of your investors, building up a really strong network where you can help people find great deals and get the things that they really want and not get distracted by pretty numbers on a prospectus, an offering memorandum, a deal sheet, or whatever it is, but really taking a holistic approach to the deal, the team, the business plan under in the marketplace, like understanding all of those things, because all those things matter, and everything you see in that prospectus is wrong. It's
That's
just,
right.
it's just just to remember, this is all wrong. This is just an outlook of what we think can happen in the future, based on our experience, assuming that those people do have experience.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, thank you. I really appreciate the conversation, Sam, and the kind words, but thank you for leading with authenticity and value in a world that gets often confusing with those things. So thank you for that.
the world is very confused with those things. My pleasure. Well, folks, I hope you all enjoyed our conversation. I wish we could talk longer.
Thank you for tuning in to Clean Money, where we talk about sustainable investing that improves society. We are passionate about creating great investment returns to investors who want to use their money to make a positive social impact in the world. If you enjoyed the episode, we'd appreciate a 5-star review. And if you are interested in making your investing matter, please connect with us at wildmountaincapital.com. Or you can find me, Samuel Sells, on LinkedIn, on Twitter at Sells_Samuel, on Instagram at Clean Money Sam, or on Facebook. And finally, make your investing matter.